Good morning. We're just going to give folks a moment to clear the waiting room.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board.
Chris Peterson, and I see Chris Hickey. Okay.
And we'll give just another moment to make sure folks have entered from the waiting room and have connected to audio. All right, we'll get started. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today I am also joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. Begin with item number 1 on this morning's agenda, calling JJ Donovan Inc. doing business as Donovan's Tavern, located at 27 Clinton Street. Date of the incident, December 4th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A, and failure to notify police in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.14b. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
I think you're on mute.
Oh, Attorney Miller, if you're speaking, you're on mute right now. One moment.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Morning, Chairman Joyce, Commissioners Saxon and Curran, Attorney Stephen Miller, also with me is Attorney Michael Ford. And also I have Chris Peterson, who was the doorman on that evening, and Chris Hickey, who is the bartender manager on the evening of the incident.
Great, thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Good morning, Sergeant Detective Charles Salucci.
Good morning, Officer Matt Entwistle, Boston Police Department.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Okay, can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep,
I do.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
I will.
Great, you may proceed.
About 12:50 a.m. on Sunday, December 4th, Officer Entwistle Rooney, assigned to the Alpha 102 Alpha, responded to a radio call for a fight at 27 Clinton Street, JJ Donovan's. Officer notified 2 people were fighting outside of the above location. Dispatch later stated that one of the males was now on the ground, unresponsive. The following units responded: Sergeant Hernandez, Marshawn, Curran, Murray. The officers scanned the length of this Clinton Street to no avail. Shortly after, Officer Bulger located the victim, Gary Steele, 215-54, inside Faneuil Hall, outside of JJ Donovan's, laying on the ground, suffering from what appeared to be a large laceration to his forehead. Officers safely arrived on scene and assisted Steele's family, who were shaken up from the incident. Officers observed a large 3 to 4 inch gash on Steele's head and requested a push on EMS. Steele was alert and conscious Officers could see what appeared to be the bone from the wound. Officers observed a large pool of blood located next to him on his clothes. Simultaneously, Faneuil Hall security was on scene and directed officers towards the suspect's direction of flight. The original description broadcast over the air was suspect number one was a white male with a long sleeve shirt, blue jeans, and a red underwear protruding from the rear of his waistband. Suspect number two was light colored hair, shoulder length, blue-gray suit, and security guards directed officers to the area of Congress Street where the suspects fled. Officers scanned the area to no avail. Gomez and Brown stated they observed the victim laying on the ground. Gomez and Brown observed the two suspects walking towards Congress Street and attempted to stop them. As they approached, they tried to gain control. Both suspects pushed off and ran towards Congress Street. After scanning the area, Officer Entwistle and Marchand returned to the victim and assist directing pressure on Steele's lacerations. Boston EMS arrived on scene and transported Steele to Mass General. After EMS arrived and transported Steele to the hospital, Officer Entwistle spoke with Steele's daughter's boyfriend, Thomas Regan, who stated he was inside J.J. Donovan's located around the corner from the assault. Regan stated he observed both the suspects get kicked out of the bar. Regan stated he and his family left the bar and began walking towards Congress Street to get a ride home. As they walked by the two suspects, he observed them yelling and started a verbal altercation with them. Regan stated both males came out of nowhere and threw Gary to the ground. Regan stated both males fled the area and towards Congress Street. Regan stated he ran after them, punched one of them in the back of the head as hard as he could. Officer Entwistle observed small laceration to Regan's right hand. Regan pointed towards Faneuil Hall security, who attempted to stop the males but were unsuccessful. Regan proceeded to state the second male who was with the suspect was wearing a gray suit, navy gray suit with a shoulder length hair. Sergeant Hernandez spoke with the bartender at J.J. Donovan's, Chris Hickey, and the doorman, Christopher Peterson, both who stated the bar was getting too rowdy around midnight and an altercation inside the establishment occurred. Peterson stated around midnight, he turned on the lights in the bar and kicked everyone out. Hickey stated the two suspects involved in the assault on Gary Steele were not involved in the altercation inside the bar. Officer proceeded to place crime scene around the area where the victim was until they were notified by the hospital that his injuries were non-life threatening. Officers broke down the crime scene and continued to search the area for the suspects. Officers stopped two males, national description on Atlantic Ave and High Street in front of Rose Wolf Hotel. Officers conducted a bring back and both suspects were identified as the combatants who assaulted Mr. Steele. That's pretty much it for the incident.
Thank you very much. And we do have a supplemental as well. That was the issuance of the license premise inspection.
Yeah, on the 4th, myself and Detective McDonough responded to J.J. Donovan's and issued them a license premise violation for assault and battery on premise.
Thank you very much. Attorney Miller, Attorney Ford, would you like to address the incident?
Yeah, Sergeant, you didn't witness the incident, is that correct?
I did not.
And when you went back to the bar, did you ask for a copy of a video?
I did. They gave us a video of the evening in question.
Have you reviewed that video?
I have, yes.
And have you provided a copy to the licensing board?
I have not.
And Sergeant, in fact, the video shows that this whole incident took place about 50 yards down North Market Street from from JJ Donovan's, is that correct?
The incident in the 1-1 did happen outside of the establishment. I
So,
can't say exactly 50 yards, but it happened outside heading towards Congress Street. I
okay,
wasn't there, so I didn't see it.
but the video, all right,
I have video of the inside of the establishment.
okay. All right, well, we've provided the video to the board, so I can go over that. Has there been any follow-up on this investigation?
There has, we started a grand jury up at Suffolk Superior Court. The victim is still in the hospital. He is supposedly only going to get back 65% of his mobility in his head. He's got a bad neck injury. Yeah, it's an ongoing investigation.
And so on that evening, Sergeant, one of the people involved in this incident, this assault on Mr. Steele, Mr. Buckley was arrested.
He was.
And then Mr. Fleming, who's also involved.
He was
not-
identified, but not he was
Was
there,
not
but
arrested,
he was not arrested.
and that was because was stated that he did not strike Mr. Steele.
Correct.
So only Mr. Buckley was arrested.
Correct.
Do you have any other knowledge of this incident that you'd like to tell the board?
Not at this time.
Thank you for your cooperation, Sergeant. So, Madam Chair, I have with me Chris Hickey, who is the bartender, and I also have Chris Peterson, who is the doorman at that evening. We did provide you video. Unfortunately, we didn't get it to you till last night. I would ask that before the board makes any decisions, that they review the video. There's a video of the exterior, which shows what was leading up to this, and also the event itself. And you could start on the exterior video at 22 minutes. And there's also a video of the interior, which shows what was going on that evening inside the bar. And that would be from the point in times were approximately 10 minutes to 21 minutes. So if the board could review that, I'd just like to just walk you past quickly and then ask some questions of Mr. Hickey and Mr. Peterson. The video for the exterior will show Mr. and Mrs. Steele, their daughter, and their daughter's boyfriend, Mr. Reagan, inside the premises. They're sitting on the far side of the bar from the camera. Also, we'll show Mr. Fleming and Mr. Buckley, who are obviously friendly and have numerous friends inside. From the video of the entire evening, there is nothing that we see with any interaction whatsoever between Mr. Fleming and Buckley and the Steeles. Steele's pretty much kept to themselves. I saw Mrs. Steele. I've obviously watched this video numerous times. I saw Mrs. Steele speaking with a woman next to her at one time, but they're pretty much stayed to themselves. We didn't see, nor as Mr. Peterson and Mr. Hickey will testify, they didn't see any sort of interaction or any reason to see that this event might be foreseeable based on what happened inside the bar. In the video for the exterior, there was, I'm sorry, the video in the interior, you will see a small skirmish that breaks out between Mr. Fleming and one of his friends. It seems like all these people knew each other. Mr. Peterson got them immediately outside. It wasn't Mr. Buckley and Mr. Fleming fighting. It was Mr. Fleming and another one of his friends. They got him immediately outside at that point. Mr. Hickey, who was the bartender manager, said, "Night's over," turned up the lights and told everyone, finish your drinks and the evening's over. The exterior video, and I know the Steels are here, so they can solve one of the issues. But from the exterior video, you'll see people dispersing. You'll see Mr. Peterson on the exterior of the premises as people dispersing, talking to people. It's obvious that a majority of these people all knew each other. At some point, we see some maybe comment between this Mr. Fleming, who's the blue suit, long hair guy in the video, and maybe some comment to Mrs. Steele. Since we don't have video, we don't know what happened. If you watch a little bit further, you'll see that Mrs. Steele and Mr. Steele are discussing something. At that point, their daughter comes over, and also Mr. Reagan, who's the boyfriend. They discuss something. They're pointing down towards Miha, and that Mr. Fleming is standing down there, and you see Mr. Reagan walk down towards Mr. Fleming. Shortly thereafter, Mrs. Steele and Mr. Steele start walking in that direction. Mr. Reagan is discussing whatever with Mr. Fleming. Mrs. Steele stands back. Mr. Steele goes up to be part of the conversation. We couldn't see any physical contact at that point, but if you watch, Mr. Buckley leaves the front of the premises. He was wearing his white shirt, but he also at that time has a black jacket on, and walks down North Market Street towards the three of them that are in this discussion. As he gets to Mr. Steele, his arm comes out and yanks Mr. Steele from behind violently to the ground. He wasn't part of the discussion. He's just walking by. He obviously is a friend of Mr. Fleming. No idea what would have prompted him to take such a violent action, but you'll see that from the video. This all happened down approximately 50 some odd yards from the front of J.J. Donovan. So I'd just like to proceed now and bring Mr. Hickey on, Madam Chair, if that's okay. So Chris Hickey, can you just identify yourself to the board?
Christopher Hickey.
And
Good to see you.
you were working the evening of this incident?
Yes, sir, I was.
How long have you been a bartender?
I've been in the bar business since 1998.
Okay,
Bartending professionally full-time since 2007.
and you were working that evening, the evening of the incident where Mr. Steele got attacked?
Yes, I was.
And so, would you describe it as any other than the skirmish that occurred between Mr. Fleming and some other one of his friends? Were there any other incidents or any problems that evening?
No, there were not.
So once, did you see the skirmish?
I did not see what took place inside the doors. I observed a bit of I wouldn't call it a skirmish, a bit of an episode taking place outside our windows, which is when I said, enough is enough for tonight, and put the lights up. That was probably around 12:15.
And when you saw that, Mr. Peterson was outside dealing with it, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so at that point, you put the lights on, told people to leave, people dispersed. Correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So did you see anything? I know you reviewed the video and I know you know who Mr. Buckley is, but so you were able to figure out who Mr. Fleming is and who the Steels were. Did you see anything that evening between Mr. Fleming, Mr. Buckley, and the Steels that would have given you cause for concern that an incident like this could happen?
No, I did not.
So you didn't see this in any way foreseeable?
Absolutely not.
So let me just go quickly to the exterior, and I know you weren't as involved as Mr. Peterson, but so you're inside, you saw Mr. Peterson either running or yelling towards, how did you know something happened on the exterior of the premises?
When I saw Mr. Peterson make his way down the walkway,
North Market Street?
that's right. I figured something was amiss, so I went to make sure that he was okay and that there was, went to assist him if he was in need of said assistance.
And so where Mr. Peterson was and you were then, that was down a little bit past the beginning of the building where Miha is that correct?
That's right.
And that's
Yes.
where Mr. Steele was on the ground,
Yes, sir.
and that, give or take, 50 some odd yards away from the front of JJ Donovan's.
I'd say about 50 yards, yes.
Okay. I have nothing further from Mr. Hickey. If the board wants to ask him any questions or wants to wait until we're finished, then whatever the pleasure of the board is.
I just have a couple of questions just to clarify some of the testimony, if you don't mind. Mr. Hickey, how long have you worked at JJ Donovan's?
Be 5 years in July.
And have you worked at any other establishments in Boston?
Yes, I have.
Okay, what are those establishments?
I've worked for Legal Seafoods. That was at Logan Airport.
Okay.
And I currently work for Summers Pubs.
So you testified that you saw a skirmish outside the window.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I wouldn't describe it as a skirmish. I saw some, I observed enough of an episode to warrant saying we don't need any more type of this behavior in or around the establishment tonight. And in so doing, I closed the bar for the evening. Again, that was around 12:15, 12:20, I believe.
Did you call the police?
No, I did not.
Why didn't you call the police?
In my training and experience, this was nothing that amounted to an episode that warranted calling the police. All I saw was a couple of guys raising their voices, getting close to one another, and Mr. Peterson intervening and dispersing the situation.
And who were those two people that were raising their voices?
The blazer guy with the long hair,
Okay.
And I don't know who the other one was. I was inside. I observed this through the window. This episode took place outside the bar. But
All right, so just to clarify, you were inside the bar.
Commissioner Joyce,
You worked at this bar for 5 years. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Joyce, they provided us video and the incident between Mr. Fleming and the other patron was at the bar. And the person was taken out from the bar. So there was an altercation at the bar.
Okay,
On the video that was provided by the JJ Donovans to us. And Mr. Fleming was escorted out after he put the other kid in a headlock and there was a small altercation at the bar.
okay. Thank you very much.
And
Uh,
you
so-
have that, Madam Chair, you have that video.
Okay. I'm just trying to get back to what.
Yep,
Mr.
no, I'm sorry.
His years of experience working here, 5 years of experience and also at Summers Pubs. And I think he said in total, he's been in the bar industry since 1998. When he sees what he's describing as an episode outside from a window, people raising voices, he just decided to turn the lights on, and close the bar.
that's right.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the dispersal thinking here. You're going to disperse an entire bar into an area where 2 people are outside raising their voices.
That had already been
Not call the
resolved.
police. And not call the police.
There was nothing to the level that warranted contacting the police at that time.
In your opinion?
That's
I
right.
haven't reviewed the video yet. Okay. In your experience, when do you call the police?
In a violent situation, that was not a situation of violence. It hadn't risen to the level of a problem.
Okay, and did you observe the skirmish inside the bar?
No, I did not.
Okay. Was there anything inside the bar that you observed that made you feel as if there could have been an altercation outside?
No, there was not.
You didn't observe anyone arguing?
No,
Okay, and in your estimation, it was just a regular night inside?
yes,
Okay, so you only call the police when, what did you say, when it's violence?
when violence has taken place, that's right,
Okay,
or imminent violence. This was not at that level.
it wasn't foreseeable that the 2 guys outside raising their voices might turn the raised voices to something violent?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Okay, Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions? I know we haven't had a chance to review the video, but based upon the testimony so far.
I have a couple of questions for the bartender here. So you said that when you observed the incident, we'll call it, you decided that that was enough and that you were going to close the bar for the night, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and you did that and you indicated the bar was closing by flashing the lights, correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
I indicated that the bar was closing by turning up the lights.
Turning up the lights, okay.
Flashing the lights would indicate that it was last call.
Okay,
So I turned the lights up entirely and told
Okay.
everyone to disperse.
so the lights flashing for last call happened just before this began, correct?
No, that's not correct. There was no last call that night. It was
Okay,
later.
well, I watched the video and just moments before Mr. Fleming takes the third party into a headlock,
It was
the
flashing.
lights flash. What's that?
I think that was a problem with the video, Commissioner Curran, not the lights flashing.
Okay. I'll take another look at that.
Yeah.
That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions for this witness?
I mean, I guess I'll have to watch the video, but what is the time difference between when the incident happened inside and when the incident happened outside? What is the length of time?
So the,
Steve Miller, if you
yeah,
would.
so the incident inside happened
It's at different times.
yeah, approximately a little bit after 12, like 12:15, 12:20. And the incident outside happened about 12:45, 12:43, 12:45. So it's about a half-hour difference.
And what is the closing time?
1 o'clock.
Is there a guard or like some sort of doorman outside? So you
Yes, he's going to testify next, Commissioner Saxon.
thank you.
And he has a far greater knowledge of what happened. If you, when you see the video, the skirmish inside, when I say lasted 10 to 15 seconds, maybe, if that, Mr. Fleming, something happened, his friend said something to him and he violently reacted immediately, grabbed him in a headlock. At that point, Mr. Peterson, he started moving him, and then you go to the exterior video and you see Mr. Peterson outside with the two of them. And Mr. Peterson will testify that he felt the incident, and the only individual that was then involved again with the later on with the Steels is Mr. Fleming. The other individual that was thrown out was a friend of Mr. Fleming's and Mr. Buckley's, and you know, we don't know what happened to that, but it was only Mr. Fleming that was involved in the incident, and he was told that he could not re-enter the premises by Mr. Peterson and Mr. Hickey.
Attorney Miller, how do we know that that third party was an actual friend of Mr. Fleming or not just a bar acquaintance?
We don't know specifically, other than you see them chatting it up, and you see this other individual getting his phone and showing Mr. Fleming and Mr. Buckley some stuff from his phone, and
Yeah.
they seem to Commissioner Kern, when you see a lot of these people dispersing at the end, they all seem to know each other. So, you know, they could be
Maybe.
bar friends. They could be bar friends as opposed to
Yeah,
actual friends.
I think it's quite possible they could have just made their acquaintance on that evening, because they look to be kind of separate groups. They're dressed a little differently, you know, they seem to be different ages.
Yeah, I mean, the one that Fleming was involved with had nothing to do with the incident that happened later.
He was gone in the other direction, definitely.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board for the first witness before we move on to next? Attorney Miller, you may present your next witness to the board.
Okay. Mr. Peterson, you there?
I am.
Would you identify yourself to the board?
I'm Christopher Peterson. I was the doorman on the night of the incident.
And so you've heard some of what has gone on and the questions. Mr. Peterson, how long have you worked as a doorman?
I've worked in the restaurant industry, all positions, since I'm about to be 37. Since I was legal to work, 18, a little after.
And so I'll ask the question before Madam Chair asks you the question, where else have you worked?
In the city of Boston, I worked as a concessions manager for Aramark at Fenway Park. I've worked as a sous chef at the TD Garden, I currently work as a food and beverage manager for Boston Harbor City Cruises and other places in Somerville, Cambridge as well.
And so you got involved with Mr. Fleming and this other individual once Mr. Fleming, grabbed him and tried to put him in a headlock and you got him outside?
Yes, as soon as I seen it out of the corner of my eye, as soon as that happened, they were already, their momentum was bringing them in my direction at the door. And I got them out, and then I attempted to separate them. At the time, I actually had fallen to the ground, but it was more of a grappling match. I wouldn't say. I think there were some maybe to my best recollection, there may have been, it was just a grappling match in there. Momentum. I think that's why me trying to get in between them, I had fallen, but it was separated quite quickly.
Sorry, I can't really hear him. He's calling it a grappling match, something?
Would you say wrestling? They were wrestling as opposed, would that be a better term?
Yes,
And so how long was that incident from the time you saw it till the time they were outside? Was it minutes, seconds, minutes?
it had to be seconds, maybe the better part of a minute.
And then
It wasn't too much.
you
too long.
dealt with them outside. And at that point you separated them and tell them that the evening was over for them and to leave.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Why didn't you call the police?
Like I said, it was more of a wrestling match, and it seemed like it was, besides some shouting back and forth, it seemed like it was over and done with. We're separated.
Okay. Did you see any other problems or whatever that evening other than that incident?
I did not.
So I won't go through what I went through with Mr. Hickey on the interior, but so Mr. Hickey decides that the evening's over, turns the lights up early, and people start dispersing. For the most part, were you on the exterior of the premises?
At that point, I was at that original incident when the momentum brought them towards me. I was directly at the doorway.
All right, so when the lights went up and it was time for people to leave, you stayed mostly on the exterior of the premises while people were leaving, is that correct?
I did, just to make sure that there was no further incident directly in front of the establishment.
Okay, and you stayed out there for quite a while, is that correct?
Yes, just popping back in from time to time, right in the doorway, basically.
And so I know the video will show this, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So you were at some point looking down towards Miha, and you saw Mr. Steele get yanked to the ground, is that correct?
Correct.
What did you do?
I immediately ran down there.
Pretty much full speed, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Steele was on the ground?
Yes.
Why didn't you call the police at that time?
At that point, I believe there was a bystander already on the line with the police. I did have my phone out. I believe Mr. Hickey did as well. And one of the victims, I think Reagan was his name, was already on the line. I at that point, I didn't think, in my opinion, that it was needed to flood the line of the police.
So you didn't call the police because either one of two people were already either speaking to the police or trying to reach the police. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so now, did you assist the police in any way in finding their way to Mr. Steele?
I did. I went back to the bar because the police cruisers were passing on the Clinton Street side in the opposite direction of traffic. So I went through the bar to the back door and I had my phone out, flashlight on, waved them down. And the first officer, one of the first officers that arrived, we ran through the tunnel in between the bar and I think the gift shop there, back towards the scene.
Okay, so the police, because they were called to 27 or whatever the number is, Clinton Street, they were on Clinton Street looking for what was going on, and you directed them to where the incident took place. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you assist for the EMTs also?
I did.
And they were also on Clinton Street.
And we, me and Mr. Hickey allowed them to pass through the bar as it was easier access for them, and it was faster for them to get to Mr. Steele instead of having to go around the entire Faneuil Hall area.
So while patrons were dispersing and you were on the exterior of the premises, did you have any indication that there was going to be a confrontation between Mr. Fleming and then Mr. Reagan and Mr. Steele?
Absolutely not.
Do you have any indication that Mr. Buckley somehow was going to insert himself into this group?
No, absolutely not.
And I know the board will see in the video, you were standing on the exterior and watched Mr. Reagan walk down towards Miha, slowly towards Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
And then saw Mr. and Mrs. Buckley kind of follow him slowly, where I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Steele slowly walked down towards Mr. Fleming, and then Mr. Steele joining the conversation with Mr. Reagan and Mr. Buckley. Is that correct?
Yeah, they
Mr. Fleming, I'm sorry, Mr. Fleming, Mr. Reagan and Mr. Steele, the conversation.
Yes.
And you witnessed then Mr. Buckley coming up from behind, walking from the front of the bar, come from behind, and that's when you saw Mr. Steele get yanked to the ground, and that's when you took action.
Yes, correct.
Anything else?
No, just watch the videos.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing else. Once again, I hate to use the term, but a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I suggest that the board review the videos that we provided.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions for this witness before we move on to the victim who's also with us this morning?
I do. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to review the videos. We received them so late at night last night. So unfortunately, I am not informed as I chair this hearing today. So Mr. Peterson, there was what you called a wrestling match outside. You broke them up, they dispersed. Again, not being familiar with the video and just reading through the police report repeatedly and trying to understand who the parties are. When you broke up the wrestling match, you went out inside a couple of times just to check on things. You separated them, then you went back inside because you thought it was over and done with. Where did you see them go? The two people that were wrestling? Did they leave together? Did they leave separately?
They
Still
were out
fighting?
there. They were out there for about maybe 4 or 5 minutes. There was a shouting match. they both actually seemed apologetic that it happened. I then told Mr. Fleming, the male in the shoulder length hair, I told him he has to leave. He attempted to come back in. I told him he had to leave because of the incident. And they were out there. The friend of who was involved with Mr. Fleming, I explained to him, you need to leave. I told them they both need to leave. One went towards the friend went towards Mr. Fleming went towards Miha, and the other friend went in the opposite direction.
Mr. Fleming left alone towards Miha?
Yes. Without the group. The rest of their group of friends went in the opposite direction after they spoke some words.
Unfortunately, I don't have enough information to ask more questions, so I'm going to defer to Commissioner Curran, who did have an opportunity to review the video. Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
My first question for Mr. Peterson is, how familiar were you before this evening with any of these individuals?
I had no idea who any of them were.
None of them. Okay. All right. So my next question is, they get into that, skirmish or whatever. You're drawn outside with them, and I see all that. You stumble. Did you fall all the way down? I'm sorry, I can't.
I fell to my knee.
Yeah. And then you got them apart. Mr. Fleming comes back in the bar momentarily, like you testified, and then you get him back out. Right at that moment, Mr. Fleming goes back after that guy again, right?
He did, yes.
Okay, so that's the second time he goes after him, right?
Yes.
And then there's a third time he goes after him. Did you see that? Because I don't see you in the video. I don't know where you are at that point. He goes after him a third time, a few minutes later. Throws a cigarette at him.
I don't believe that may have been one of the times that I popped back in real quick, but I spent the majority of the time.
Okay, and that was like 3 minutes after the second time you went after him. So now we're pushing like 4 minutes that Fleming is going after this guy over and over, right? And then he chases him down the street in the opposite direction of our final incident, correct?
I don't recall it. Him.
Okay, that's what I saw. I saw Mr. Fleming chase this younger man in the black sweatshirt down the street the other way. So I don't even know what happened there, and you didn't see it either, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then they both come back on video again after that. Did you see them come back after that again?
I did. They were out there for a little bit of time with the crowd of their friends. I'm not sure if the black sweatshirt was involved. Was a friend of his.
So Fleming has gone after this guy 4 different times, right? We've established that, correct?
1, 2. I think possibly 3.
Yeah, he gets the first time he tries to headlock him, they go outside, right? He comes
Correct.
back in, and you put him back out on the street, and he goes after him with a flying kick, right? That's the second time. Third time he goes after him again, he's throwing a cigarette at him, and then the fourth time he chases him off camera, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we still haven't called the police yet.
No, it was all relatively quick in the moment.
Is someone sharing a screen here?
Someone is, I'm trying to stop that right now.
Yeah.
So it was all relatively quick in the moment. I don't think it lasted for more than a minute of all that compiling a one.
Okay, I think the video clearly shows it's more than well more than a minute. So I mean, I'll rely on the counter on the video here, but the next thing I wanted to get to is when I'm watching the video when Fleming is down by Miha, he appears to be drawing some attention. Can you tell me, did he draw your attention? Was he shouting? What was happening there?
He was actually quiet.
Okay,
He wasn't saying anything.
he was
he-
alone though, and you said that he walked off by himself, right?
Yes, he was alone at the corner of the Miha's patio.
And Buckley wasn't there yet, but right, at one point, Buckley eventually catches up to him, correct?
Yes,
Did, you had a short interaction with Buckley just before he walked up the street? Did you recall what that interaction was?
he was apologetic for his friend.
Yeah.
In the establishment.
And that's all, that's basically it. He shook your hand and went on his way, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Did you take note of the steel group going towards Mr. Fleming?
I did.
Tell me about that. What did you see? What did you hear?
Mr. Reagan, I believe his name is, I think, I'm not too sure, but, I think there was something said from Mr. Fleming to either the Stales or Mr. Reagan. And, Mr. Reagan then said, I'm not gonna let him get away with that. And he walked towards Mr. Fleming. At that point, Mr. and Mrs. Stale kind of slowly walked towards Mr. Fleming as well.
Okay, and do you have any idea when what was said, when and where?
I'm not exactly too sure.
Okay. 'Cause I'm watching the video, I'm not seeing it. So, yeah, I'm gonna wait until I hear from I guess the victims group here. So I think that's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
I don't want to cross them.
Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions for this witness?
I mean, I think after the victim speaks, there may be some more questions, but for now, for Attorney Miller, just make sure we address if there are any changes going forward in your practices, policies, procedures, as far as dispersal and keeping patrons safe.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear that.
Changes in policies and procedures at the bar.
I was asking if after the victim has had an opportunity to speak, whether you can speak to any changes in the policies, practices, or procedures as far as dispersal and keeping patrons safe.
They do have their tavern rules, and which they did go over with all the employees again. And emphasized the thought of the fact of, rather than them dealing with issues like this, to just call the police. Rather than just while they realized that all these people seemed to be friendly that night, rather than dealing with Mr. Fleming and the unknown person, that they should just call the police and not deal with it themselves. I just reiterated that. I do have a copy of their rules, which I can provide to the board.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. Are there any further questions for this witness on the board?
I do. I have some more questions. Mr. Hickey, how many people were in there that night? Was it a busy night? Was it crowded? What's your capacity and how full were you?
How many people there that night? I'd say 30,
What's your capacity?
45.
So for Mr. Hickey or Mr. Peterson, was Mr. Fleming a regular?
I have never seen him before.
Mr. Peterson, was Mr. Fleming a regular?
I've never seen him before that.
He was never in this JJ Donovan's before.
I would not say that.
You don't know him?
I do not know him, to the best of my knowledge. And in the time I have spent working there, I have never met him.
Okay. Was Mr. Buckley a regular?
I have met Mr. Buckley many times.
Mr. Peterson,
At the
you know Mr. Buckley?
I've never met him before that night.
Okay, but did you recognize him as someone who's a regular at JJ Donovan's?
No, I haven't seen him in there.
And how
before.
long have you worked at JJ Donovan's?
Probably a couple weeks before that.
Okay. So, Mr. Hickey, would you describe Mr. Buckley as a regular?
Yes, I would.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further from Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon before we move to, no, nothing from Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon. Thank you. I do see we are joined by Mr. and Mrs. Steele. Thank you for being with us this morning. Have you both been sworn in? Oh, you are on mute currently. There we go.
Yes, we have.
Great. Is there any additional testimony you would like to provide to the board this morning to help inform them of the incident?
With the fight, I didn't see it happen in the bar because we were on the other side. Maybe it was on the other side, but I do remember seeing quite clearly Mr. Fleming beating somebody up in a sweatshirt outside the bar because I was near the window side of the bar. And then Mr. Fleming came back into the bar. The person he was beating up ran and slugged down his drink, and the bartender that's about the same time the bartender told him to get out, and the lights went on and everyone was asked to leave.
Thank you. Anything further you would like to provide to the board?
In the statement, it had said that the officers were responding to two people fighting outside. Gary was never fighting, so I don't know why that was written in there. And his birthday's also wrong. It's 3/15/54.
Thank you for that, those points of clarification, and thank you again for being with us. Turn it back to the board to see if there are any remaining questions for the licensee or the victim or family.
I don't have any questions. Thanks for joining us.
Do we have anyone else from the victim group here to testify or no?
Our daughter Ash is here. Tom couldn't get off work. She's actually at work. She's a nurse and she's using her lunchtime right now.
Thank you. I see Ashley on here. Ms. Steele, was there any testimony you wish to provide the board as well about the incident? And first, have you been sworn in?
I was not sworn in.
Okay, thank you. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And is there any additional testimony about the incident you would like to provide to help inform the board?
No, I didn't see the fight inside. I was in the bathroom, so I missed everything that occurred inside. I was just told we had to leave, so we walked out and I just saw my dad being thrown. And that was the only thing I saw. I didn't really see anything else leading up to that. So I don't really have anything to add.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. So Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon, do you have any further questions for any of the witnesses who testified this morning?
I don't think so.
Commissioner Saxon, anything further?
I wish you the best in your healing process, but were there any words exchanged? Did you talk to?
No, I never saw him before in my life.
He did
I
exchange.
don't even know
I'm
what he
sorry.
looks like.
He
And you
did say
mean-
something, sorry.
You mean he by Buckley, the one who grabbed you and threw you down?
Right, exactly.
What was going on with Mr. Fleming before this?
No clue. I was probably talking to my son-in-law.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Buckley, after the incident, and I was, my daughter was holding her dad's neck and I was trying to put my hand on his wound, came up to me and took off his coat. He had a black coat on and put it underneath his head and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I thought he was going to fight my friend." And then he took off.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see what he does on the video. I'm really sorry that happened to you. I don't know if I've made any more sense. I watched the video earlier and I don't know if I made much more sense of it right now than I did when I first watched it. So I'm sorry about that, but thank you for joining us.
Thank
Excuse
you.
me, Madam Chair, could Attorney Ford ask Mr. or Mrs. Steele a question?
Sure.
Okay,
Good morning, Mr. Steele. My name's Michael Ford, one of the attorneys for JJ Donovan's. It's fair to say you had no interaction with Mr. Fleming or Mr. Buckley inside the bar, correct?
No, not
Correct.
at all.
And these questions are for you, Mr. Steele. And when you came outside, you were sort of lingering out front, correct?
Right, exactly.
And as you were lingering outside, at some point, did you have any words with anyone out front?
No, not at all.
Okay, you didn't talk to anyone. Then, you know who Mr. Fleming is, correct?
Well, we don't know
No,
him.
not really. I don't even know what he looks like.
Well, did you see a gentleman in a blue blazer
Yeah, I
with
remember.
slightly long hair and a beard?
No, I don't remember any of it.
Well, let me ask you a question. As you looked up North Market Street, there was a man standing alone, a man who you would ultimately walk to. You recognize him, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay, let's take it back to the beginning. You're lingering out front, correct?
Right? Yeah.
And about how long were you lingering out front?
A few minutes anyways, waiting for everybody
Okay.
else to get,
And
waiting to
at
get
some-
together to go back to the hotel.
And at some point, you were staying in a hotel?
Yes,
Okay, where were you staying?
Yeah.
I think it was, Ash, do you remember? Was it a Marriott?
I don't know. Tom rented it. It was a residence, I
Okay,
think.
so.
A residence, yeah. We had an Uber there. We
All
weren't
right,
driving.
these questions are for Mr. Steele. Mr. Steele, when
Yes.
you were lingering in front of the bar, you turned to the right and walked up to Mihar, correct?
Yes,
And why did you walk up there?
just to get together with my son-in-law, I would imagine.
Okay, and as you walked up there, that was about 50 yards away from JJ Donovan's, correct?
Yes,
And did you have any words with a gentleman wearing a blue blazer and long hair?
not that I remember.
Okay, nothing was occurring at that point, is that fair to say?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, and then out of nowhere, a gentleman came and yanked your hood and pulled you to the ground, correct?
Well, something happened. I don't even know what happened. Next
Do you
thing
know
I
what-
woke up at
Do you know
in the
what
hospital.
prompted it? Do you know what prompted it?
What?
Can you repeat that?
Do you know what prompted it?
Prompted. No.
No, I don't.
Okay. Just have one moment, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board at this time? Okay. And once again, thank you to the Steels for being with us this morning. And with that, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you all.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 2 on this morning's agenda, Old Colonial Corporation doing business as Bell in Hand, located at 45 to 55 Union Street. Dated the incident October 8th, 2022, patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Trish Malone for Old Colonial Corporation, doing business as a Bell in Hand. With me today, I do have the manager, Hector Morates, who was actually on the premises that evening.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Dr. Daniel McGeiser.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and, oh, sorry, there's another gentleman named Cliff who is raising your hand. Could you please identify yourself?
Cliff Anderson.
Thank you. All right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you. Sergeant McIsaac, you could please proceed with the police report.
About 01:59 hours on Saturday, October 8th, 2022, Officers Giblin and Scott, assigned to the Alpha 103 Alpha, responded to a radio call for an assault and battery at the Bell in Hand Tavern, 45 Union Street, Boston. Operations relayed that management reported an assault and battery occurred between two patrons. Upon arrival, officers were directed inside by an employee and met the victim, identified as George Junta. He stated that he was on the second floor of the tavern when he observed a female who he was with being spoken to by a black male. He stated that he believed that the male suspect acting in an aggressive manner towards his female friend, and he stated to the male that he needed to leave her alone. He stated that at that point, the male suspect then attacked him, striking him in the face, causing a laceration underneath his right eye and significant bruising to his forehead. Officers observed the victim's injuries, and Boston EMS was dispatched to the scene. The victim's T-shirt was also torn. The victim stated that he could not accurately provide a description of the suspect and did not know where he went after the employees removed him from the tavern. Officer Giblin spoke with the manager, Hector Huertas, and observed on the tavern security camera the assault occur at 01:48 hours. The suspect in the video is seen talking to an unidentified female when the victim approached, and the assault occurred shortly thereafter. The suspect is seen striking the victim in the face multiple times. Mr. Huerta stated that he would save a copy of the video depicting this incident. Officers notified the Alpha 914 Sergeant McGuire, who arrived and conducted a Code 35 license premise check number 026617. Boston EMS arrived and provided initial medical aid to the victim, but the victim refused to be transported to a hospital, stating he would do so on his own. That is the end of the narrative section of the police report.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Attorney Malone, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, Sergeant, you don't have any direct knowledge of what happened, is that correct?
I do not.
Okay. Is Mr. Huertas here with me today?
Yes.
Mr. Huertas, could you please tell me what happened that evening?
I was there directly. I had watched the video after the fact. From what I saw, there was two males, one being the victim and the suspect. The suspect was talking to a female, what it looked like maybe like 30 seconds before the victim walked up to him, said some words, not sure what was said, and then the suspect started striking the victim multiple times in the face. Security immediately went to break it up, got the suspect to walk down the stairs and then out the building. As Manager Cliff Anderson was calling 911.
Okay, so did you say you were or weren't on the premise that evening?
I was on the premise. I was not upstairs at the time.
Okay, so were you actually questioned by any Boston police officer?
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember who you were questioned by?
I'm not sure his name. No.
Okay, does your name Officer Gilbert sound correct?
That sounds.
Okay, so at that time, so at that time, you told him exactly what you testified before the board? Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay, and you did show him the video that seemed to correlate with what you had actually said?
Correct. And we saved
Okay.
the video as well.
Okay, so is it fair to say that what you said and the video both showed the same exact things? There was consistency between what you said and what actually the video showed?
Yes.
Okay, so in your mind, was this something that the bar saw as a spontaneous or unforeseeable incident?
Correct.
Okay, now what time did this incident happen, if you recall?
About 1:45 to 1:48. I believe
Okay.
it was 1:48.
Okay, and what time on the second floor does last call occur?
Last call occurs at 1:40. The lights turn on at 1:45 and the music stops.
Okay, so it's fair to say that at the time the incident went down, which you stated was 1:48, that the lights and last call the lights were on and last call had already taken place.
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall what type of aid was rendered to the alleged victim, Mr. Juenta?
Our staff itself, before EMS arrived, grabbed some paper towels as well as like an ice pack to assist them before they arrived.
Okay, and do you recall whether or not he was actually transported by EMS, or was he just treated at the scene?
He was just treated, as far as I think he left with his friends after.
Had you previously seen the alleged suspect in your premises before, to your knowledge?
A couple times. I have not seen him since.
Okay.
But he
And-
has been around, yeah.
Okay, so, has he ever caused any type of incident on the licensed premises previously?
No.
Okay, so what is the board's, what is the licensee's policy with regard to a suspect who is recognized, let's say he wants to come in this Saturday night, and go to the second floor? What would be, what your staff is told with regard to someone who has already caused kind of a previous incident, so to speak?
If we were to remember their face or them, they would be barred from the premise. We wouldn't want any type of altercation to happen after the fact again.
Okay, I have no further questions here. I know that there is a Mr. Cliff Anderson who is an employee of the premises. I don't think at this time I need his testimony, but again, that's my opinion. I leave it to the board.
Thank you, Attorney Malone. I'll turn it over to the board to see if there are any questions for the licensee. Chairman Joyce.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Was any attempt made that evening to get the assailant to hang out, like get him, hey, hang out, like, let me talk to you, or what, or did he run?
He just walked off and kept walking down the street, I believe, towards like Faneuil Hall area.
And do you guys have any like procedures or tricks you like to try to get someone to hang out while you're calling the police? Because obviously the police are gonna wanna meet with that guy, ideally.
Generally, yes, we do. But because of how aggressive he was at that time, I wouldn't want anyone else to get hurt and we obviously cannot restrain anyone.
Yeah.
So if he wasn't really talking to us, we can't try to force him to.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement as well.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Calling item number
Thank you.
3, Big Night Venues Boston 2 LLC, doing business as Empire, located at 1 Marina Park Drive. Dated the incident November 13th, 2022, assault and battery, patron on employee in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kristen Scanlon representing the licensee.
And Charles Kane, Vice President of Security.
Great, thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective Paul Donlin.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Detective Donlin, you may please proceed with the police report.
Okay, I'm referring to the Boston Police Report. At about 1:05 a.m. on Sunday, November 13th, 2022, officers responded to a radio call for an assault and battery at Empire, 1 Marina Park Drive in South Boston. Upon arrival, they spoke to Wanderson Santos. He's a security person at Empire, who stated that he saw a male he knew as Paul Pacheco punch an unknown female and attempted to break it up. As Santos attempted to break up the fight, an unknown male mistook Santos for Pacheco and punched him in the lip. Both men took off after the incident. The manager, John Fothergill, placed the 911 call. Officers asked Santos if he was in need of EMS. He declined. I arrived on scene and cited them for assault and battery, patron on employee.
Thank you very much. Attorney Scanlon, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Just one question for Sergeant Detective. When you arrived on scene and throughout your time there, Sergeant Detective, was all staff cooperative with you?
Yes, they were.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, members of the board, if you haven't received it yet, you will shortly. The video footage that's very clear from this incident from our compliance specialist, Jillian King, along with a breakdown of the seconds really that this occurred in, pointing out the folks that were involved in this minor altercation. What you'll see from this video is at approximately 26 seconds into the footage, a blonde female can be observed standing behind the stanchions that are set up next to the main bar. You'll see from the video that she appears to have a phone in her hand. Just that's a point to point out because it's easy to identify her in the video. She attempts to walk through guests and bumps into a bald white male patron who's later identified as Paul Paccio, who's mentioned in the police report. Paccio then can be observed pushing the female, and she then pushes him back. You'll see Officer Wanderson Santos, who's identified in the police report. He's on the video with a shaved head and a beard, standing to the right of the stanchions, who immediately responds to this altercation. Approximately 52 seconds into the video footage, a male who we later found out was the blonde female's boyfriend pushes Mr. Paccio. Security Officer Santos then immediately steps between the parties and gets punched in the face by the boyfriend, which is approximately at the 1 minute time mark. So as indicated on the video timestamp, from start to finish, this entire encounter happens without warning within a little over 30 seconds. It starts and stops. Parties are escorted out of the venue. Police are called by Manager Ryan Tobin, who also then called Director of Security Charlie Kane, who's on the call with us today, immediately thereafter. While waiting for the police to arrive, Security Manager John Fothergill, who's mentioned in the report, spoke with the female's boyfriend, who said he did not realize that Security Officer Santos was employed by the licensed premises and was trying to help. He was refusing to provide ID, and the couple left before BPD arrived at approximately 1:15. There was no issue with patrons prior to this incident that evening. It was a regular Saturday night. They were not at capacity. There's no interaction otherwise with any patrons or patrons with employees leading up to what can be observed on the video that would lead staff to believe that this event or any minor altercation was foreseeable. The staff did immediately act appropriately in this situation, escorted patrons that were involved outside and called police. With that being said, Charlie Kane, if you'd like to add anything, I know you showed up shortly after the incident occurred. Please feel free to do so as well. You're on mute, Charlie.
Oh, I apologize. No, just that all the policies were followed. When I got there, I talked to Detective Sergeant Donlin and to my security officer who didn't want to press charges. The couple took off Northern Ave towards Ocean Prime, and we have a policy on minor incidents to not chase patrons down the street because we'd be liable if they were to get hit by a vehicle or something along those lines. So the door officers let them walk away as they ran down towards Ocean Prime, and they were away from the area when Boston got there. Just to also note, Security Officer Santos has been with me for over 3 years at Empire, and Security Manager John Fothergill has been with me for 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Kane, and I will note that I did receive the video during this hearing. I'll share it with the commissioners as soon as we adjourn. Anything further, Attorney Scanlon, before we move to questions?
Nothing further. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'll start with Chairman Joyce. Do you have any questions for the licensee?
Thanks, Danny. I have no questions at this time.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
None for me either. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement, and I will share the video as soon as we adjourn this morning.
Thank you.
Calling item number 4, 1260 Boylston Street LLC, doing business as Sojuba, located at 1265 Boylston Street, date of the incident October 2nd, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Board. This is Chin Chung. I'm the manager on record.
Great. Thank you for being with us this morning, Mr. Chong. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective William Pollan, assigned to the District 4 in the South End.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? And you both please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
I do.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. If you could please proceed with the reading of the police report.
All right, it's just detective. I wish I was a sergeant.
Oh, my apologies.
On October 2nd, 2022, about 4:02 a.m. was a Sunday morning. Officer Kimiao in the Bravo 416, which is Bravo's Roxbury district, responded to a radio call for an A&B report at 34 Pontiac Street in Roxbury. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with the victim, later identified as Ritish Kataya, who stated he was inside the Sojuba bar at 1265 Boylston Street, and an unknown male shoved him inside the bar. The victim stated he was shoved twice, and later in the night, the male grabbed him in a headlock and slammed him into the ground. The victim stated the suspect came up to him from behind. The officer asked the victim if he would like EMS. He stated no. The victim was not able to provide officer a description of the suspect. The victim stated that the bar has video cameras and the incident should be recorded. The victim's girlfriend stated that she observed a male wearing an off-white sweatshirt, and she believed that he was the suspect and was attending a birthday party inside.
Thank you. And we do have a supplemental as well, which is just.
Yes, we do. Sorry. On October 12th, myself and other detectives went to Sojuba Bar, issued a license premise violation 026429 for assault and battery, patron on patron. The establishment manager at the time, Ray Murray, was advised of the reasons for the violation. He signed the violations and was provided a copy of it.
Thank you very much, Detective. Mr. Chong, would you like to address the alleged incident?
I'd like to ask a detective a few questions, if you don't mind. Detective, were you at the scene of the accident?
No.
Incident? Okay. And when you arrived to Sojuba, was our staff cooperative?
Yes.
Okay. So to give you a story, at around 12:30, I got one of my staff member came up to me and told me about an incident. Mr. Mateo was apparently harassing another table next to him. When I got there, one of my staff was already there at that location, and actually asked a friend, because our policy to make sure our staff doesn't put their hands on any of the patrons or any of the customers. I asked their friends, can you please make sure that Mr. Mateo does not approach the other table, because he was the person instigating the argument. And all of a sudden, this happened within literally about 10 to 15 seconds. Mr. Mateo decided to grab another customer next to him by his shirt or throat. And then from that point on, they were pushing each other. And this incident literally lasted about really 10, 15 seconds. Our staff and I, we were able to split these two parties up, and we asked Mr. Mateo and his friends, do me a favor, please, if you can, leave the premise, and I have the other parties sitting at this in our restaurant. So they were asked to leave. They left, and when we had to come down to Sojuba and asked to see the footage of the camera, we showed them the gentleman that was instigating the fight, which is Mr. Mateo, was walking out with his friends, and he was trying to come back to instigate further argument, and we were able to separate them. They were outside, and they dispersed. While they were outside, we kept the other party in to make sure it doesn't escalate to be any bigger. But yeah, that's it. That's all that happened that night.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. I'll turn it over to the board. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I do. I'm just confused. It says the officers were responding at 4 a.m. What time are you open until?
The incident happened around 12:30. We closed at 2 o'clock. I don't know what happened from the time that he left. He left around 12:45, which I showed the footage to the detective of him leaving around that time frame. And then after that, from 12:45, around 1 o'clock, I don't know what happened around 4. Maybe him and his girlfriend was upset because we had to escort them. We had to have them leave the premise. I personally don't know what happened from that point on, from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. But I do want to mention, I've been in Fenway for 5 years, and this is, I think, the first incident that ever happened with any type of arguments or patron, any type of way. So I just want to put that in record.
Okay, so you're not open at 4 AM.
No, we're not open. We close at exactly 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Chairman, if I could. I'm
Yep.
sorry, it seems from the police report that they responded to an address in Roxbury. That's the
Oh.
address for the,
Oh, yes, it says that, assault battery.
Right. So I think he called after he got home, and then he called the police after that. And yeah.
And is there video that you can share with us?
I shared the video with the detective already of the gentleman leaving, and with his friends and him trying to come back in, and his friends are the one that kind of pushed them out, say you need to go home. And the friend came up to us telling us he's apologizing for his friend, and it was done with that. It was pretty quick and pretty fast.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
How did you identify the aggressor?
I was there. The person, Mr. Mateo, was
Yeah.
the person actually kept on trying to come over the table. That's when we asked his friend, can you please make sure me and my other staff was there? And there's other servers and other workers around there, but particularly me and the worker, we asked the friend to make sure, can you please have him control him and just kind of stay in his side. And then from that point on, we saw him grabbing the other person. They were pushing each other. We were able to de-escalate the situation really, really fast. And then we asked the friend and him if you can please leave the premise, and they walked out by themselves. And as we showed the detective, the video showing that the gentleman was walking out, he was trying to come back in to kind of escalate the situation. We were, as his friend was actually the one that kind of pushed them and said, hey, listen, it was done. They walked out. They were out there for probably about, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. They dispersed, and then that was the time that we told them, if you like to leave the other group, and they said, so it was done with that.
But how do you know him as Mr. Mateo? I'm sorry. Is he a regular?
No, I just saw the police report, so I'm assuming he's the person that called the police report. So I'm just assuming as Mr. Mateo. Does that make sense? Or because those are the only people that was involved in somewhat of a someone that was actually instigating the argument.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. I'll review the police report. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Items 5 and 6 concern the same licensee on the same date. They stem from the same incident. Madam Chair, would you like to take these two items together?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, I'll read into the record. Items 5 and 6, Paga Inc., doing business as Nick's Venue located at 100 Warrenton Street, dated the incident October 28th, 2022. Item 5 is failure to ID patrons properly. It was a Colombian license in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. And item 6, person under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 34A, 34C, and 64 to 64A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Mark, am I on mute?
Nope, you're not on mute. We can hear you.
Good morning. Chairwoman Joyce, Commissioner Saxon and Curran, and Executive Secretary Green, Mark Evliades for Paga Inc. Today I have with me Farouk Reza, who is the Director of Operations there, and Billy Robinson, who is the Manager of Record.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
William Gallagher.
I'm Detective Hernandez. Excuse me, Detective Hernandez.
Thank you very much. Are there any other, are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. I know there are a number of reports for these two items. So Sergeant Detective Gallagher, will you be reading to begin with?
Sure. Is this the failure to properly ID?
Yeah, we'll start with that one and then read into the record the additional reports.
On 10/28/2022 at 11:40 PM, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection club venue at 100 Warrington Street. Inside the club, detectives observed a young-looking female at the bar ordering alcohol. Thinking that the female was under 21 years of age, detectives approached, identified themselves as DPD, and asked for identification. Female was only able to provide a Colombian driver's license in her name with a date of birth of 5/2/2000. Female was identified as Victoria C. Fernandez, and she was from Boston University. When asked how she gained entrance into the venue with no passport, Ms. Fernandez replied that she always uses her Colombian license to get into the venue and never carries her passport. Detectives then spoke. Venue manager Cheryl Greza, informing him that all internationals must present a valid passport to enter and purchase alcohol. Mr. Reza stated that he would speak to the door staff. As a result, what detectives have observed, Sergeant Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice number 058993 to venue for failure to ID patrons properly with the Colombian ID accepted. Mr. Reza signed for, accepted the notice. Those essentially are the facts.
Thank you. And can we please proceed with the additional reports for violation 058992?
Eddie?
Yes, sir. 1 second, sir.
I've got it right here for.
Sorry.
I can take it.
All right, thanks.
On 11/3/2022, at 11:15 PM, Sergeant Gallagher, Detective Hernandez, assigned to licensed premise unit, responded to club venue 100 Warrington Street. Issued licensed premise inspection notice number 058992 to club venue for persons under 21 possession of alcohol on premise. Date of the offense was actually 10/28/2022 at 11:40 PM. The underage patron initially told detectives, the club personnel, that she was over 21 years of age. Further investigation showed the patron, who was identified as Victoria C. Fernandez, was 20 years of age. Mr. Cheryl Greza signed for and accepted the notice. Ms. Fernandez will be summoned into court for being a person under 21 possession of alcohol and possession of a fraudulent ID. This piggybacks the first report. We did our due diligence. Detective Hernandez was able to confirm that this woman was actually under 21 and the ID that she tended to us was fraudulent.
Thank you. And we have a supplemental here as well that states those facts. I don't know if you have that in front of you as well.
Yes, I do. Look forward to it. After further investigation, the detectives were able to confirm the true identity of the involved patron. Ms. Victoria Fernandez used a fraudulent Colombia driver's license and also a fraudulent Colombian identification card that stated her date of birth was 2/5/2000. It was revealed that her true date of birth is 2/5/2002. As a result of what detectives have discovered, Ms. Fernandez summoned to court, like I said, for person under 21 possession of alcohol and possession of fraudulent ID. That's it.
Thank you very much. Attorney Avliadis, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, Mark Avliadis, on the night in question, you saw the person at the bar?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell me what you observed?
We observed her at the bar. Wasn't that busy that evening. We watched her order a drink from the bartender, who then made Ms. Fernandez a drink and passed it to her.
And then did you approach her?
Yes.
And did you take her outside?
No, we had room right there in the inside the venue to speak with her.
And what did she produce for ID to you? Because you mentioned a Colombian driver's license.
Yeah,
but
she
then
had
you also-
two IDs, sir. They were both fraudulent. They were both from Colombia. Neither was passed.
Neither was a passport. I understand that, sir. And then sometime subsequently, 6 or 7 days later, you cited the Paga Inc. for minor in possession. I'm assuming that that time span took you to identify her true age.
We wrote the initial report that night for the failure to properly ID because you can't accept out of country stuff like that. Then we realized that she was from a local university. We contacted the university with the information that we had, and they were able to provide to us her true date of birth.
And other than that, did the staff and management of venue cooperate with you?
Yes, sir, they did.
You, they had their license posted properly. You didn't see any other incidents in the
No,
space?
that was correct.
Sergeant, Detective, thank you very much.
Sure.
Mark Evliades for venue. I'd like to call Shirok Reza, who is the Director of Operations regarding this matter. But prior to him testifying, there has been an internal investigation done on this incident regarding the security staff member who allowed the person into the club and what the policies and procedures are as far as internationals coming into the venue. That being said, the staff member was newish and he has been reprimanded regarding not asking for a passport to come in. And the security staff has been retrained with the fact that this particular establishment has a lot of internationals that come to its place of business. And it's my understanding that the policy is to always ask for a international passport if they're coming from a different country. Shirok Reza, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Are you working on the night in question?
Good morning, everybody.
Could you introduce yourself?
Shirok Reza, I'm the Director of Operations for Paga Inc. I oversee the operation for the nightclubs that Paga operates.
And how long have you been there, sir?
I've been there close to 27 years now.
And were you working on the night in question?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And can you explain or tell the board what the policy is regarding IDing patrons from other countries?
Well, we ask for the 5 IDs that are acceptable by the board. The military ID, the passport, the Massachusetts driver's license or an ID. The issue in particular is on 1 or 2 nights a week. Boston is a very international city, and we have a lot of customers that come from overseas, and you know, we request the passport, and we've had plenty of occasions where people have brought in passports and have lost them. I had sent some examples of it to Mr. Iliadis to show the board that we've had people who came in with passport and lost it at our premises. And, you know, we try to get it back to them. And if we're not, we finally send it to their embassy of the country that they have. But that's our preference of the ID that we accept. There has been occasions where we accept international IDs where there is a large group of people. You know, they come with 10 or 12 people, and 1 or 2 people don't have their passport, but they're all part of that large group, and they have 2-3 forms of international ID that they present that shows they're 21 years of age. Often they bring in their passport on their phone, where we don't accept any IDs over the phone. But in addition to the physical 2 or 3 forms of ID that they have from their countries, they also pull up their phones and say, hey, I can't take my passport out, I'm going to lose it, and it'll be, you know, very difficult to replace it. And they show their passport over the phone. So those are very exceptional times that we do accept international IDs. And, you know, this young lady was 20 years old. I think she was few months away from being 21. And I don't want to give an excuse for it. There is no excuse for it, and we acknowledge it. And I think Sergeant Detective, after doing some due diligence and contacting the school, came to find out that she was 20 years old, not 21. And then subsequently we got written up for serving the minor.
Okay, but with this particular person, when they first come into the door, you have security staff at the door, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when they present ID on this particular evening with this particular young woman, she presented two forms of ID, a Colombia driver's license and a Colombian ID, correct?
Absolutely. If it's an international ID, we will not accept anything less than 2 forms, and sometimes 2 or more.
And do you have a scanner there?
We do.
Okay, so every patron that comes in, they have to produce these IDs and then you scan them into a computer database?
Correct.
And on the night in question, do you know how long she may have been in the establishment?
I would say it was fairly early. If my memory remembers, I think Sergeant was there before midnight, and we had just opened our doors within a half hour, 30 minutes or so.
And the doorman accepted just these 2 IDs. You've had a conversation with them, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you've also had a conversation with the general security members that do the door allowing patrons in regarding the forms and types of IDs and the backups that are required to allow someone into the premises.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is it fair to say that it is often that you turn patrons away because the door staff does not find their identification up to snuff?
I mean, on any given weekend, some weekends we turn away hundreds of people that try to attempt to get into a place with a not a valid ID. So it's not uncommon for us to turn away hundreds of people. It's a big deal.
Someone who's been in your office and has witnessed personally the amount of IDs, credit cards, and passports that you collect after the evening's over or that staff finds within the nightclub. How often does that happen on any given evening?
Every night that we're open, we receive and find IDs that are, or confiscate IDs that are not for the people that had showed up. I mean, without a doubt, every night that we're open, we experience that.
And I'm sure some of these patrons are regulars in your club, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair to say that for regular patrons, you request for them, if you're going to turn them away, to bring in their passport next time, and that you could take a photocopy and keep it on file at the club if they are in fear of losing their international passport.
We in fact have that. We have few customers that have provided their passports in the past, and we have taken copies of it and have it on file so they don't have to bring in their actual passport when they come in.
Thank you, Mr. Reza. I have no further questions for this witness. I have Billy Robinson is on, I believe, but he is the manager of record, and I think that his testimony would be identical to Mr. Reza's. So unless the board has any questions for Mr. Reza, I would ask that the board find no violation here, or if they do, to just issue a warning based on the fact that they are scrupulous and have a 0 tolerance policy of under 21 people coming into their establishment.
Okay, I have a few questions before we take your recommendation, which will be voted on Thursday, but Sergeant Gallagher or Detective Hernandez in the police report states that Ms. Fernandez replied she always uses her Colombian license to get in. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And to the person from venue who was testifying, I'm sorry, you stated that the person working the door was newish. What does that mean?
Madam Chairwoman, I have to be honest with you, the acquiring employees in our line of work has been very, very difficult. And it's almost been a revolving door, and training them has been even harder. And we never trust just our door guys that are just hired at the door. We constantly have managers and assistant managers available at the door as a backup. But it's been very difficult.
I think that's across the city. We understand that, but how long did this newish person work there?
That particular employee was there less than 2 months.
Okay. I'm just gonna make a statement that you're putting your alcohol license at risk when you're making exceptions like this for valid IDs. If someone looks under 21, you have to think seriously about whether or not a Colombian license is acceptable. Was this person a regular?
Not to my knowledge, Madam Chairwoman.
What about to the manager of record or the manager that was there that night? She states that she always uses her Colombian license to get in.
Unfortunately, Mr. Robertson was ill that night, and I was the manager on the record for that night. I'm manager for that night, and she's not a regular customer to us.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
And none from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Appreciate your time, everyone.
Thank you. Calling item number 7, Castaneda Gomez Corporation doing business as La Fonda Colombiana, located at 972 to 974 Saratoga Street in East Boston. Date of the incident, October 16th, 2022. Bottle service violation, premise conducting bottle service without permission in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Oh, I can see you, but you are on mute. Hang on just one second. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
The son of Mr. Jorge is the owner. She's the manager. And the security. I'll be Jorge.
My name is Luz. I'm the manager of La Fonda Colombiana.
My name is Norberto Santiago, security at La Fonda. Man.
Great, thank you. And the other 2 individuals to the left are planning on testifying as well. So please identify yourselves.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Norberto Andrew Santiago, security / doorman.
Thank you.
Yes,
Great.
I'm Luz and the manager, Luz Arroyave.
Thank you.
Jorge Odner.
Great. Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the incident who wish to testify this morning?
William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you very much. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading from a police report, which I wrote on Sunday, October 16, 2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD license permission, conducted a license permission inspection of La Fonda located at 972 Saratoga Street in East Boston. While walking through the establishment, detectives observed patrons sitting at a table with a bottle of hard alcohol placed on the table. The bottle was left unattended and made available for self-service access to the beverages. Detectives informed the person in charge, Mr. George Castaneda, that this is a prohibited practice. Bottle service is not a condition allowed on the establishment's common victuals license. Mr. Castaneda stated he would immediately correct the situation. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license permit inspection notice 058961 for premise providing bottle service without approval of the Boston Licensing Board. Mr. Castaneda signed for and accepted the notice.
Thank you, Detective. Would the licensee like to address the alleged incident? Yep, that would be that. So licensee, that would be the representatives from La Fonda. Would you like to address the board?
Que si quieres decir algo.
Hi, I'm the manager. I wasn't that day, my day off, but the owner told me it's like 6 people in the table, and the waiters they don't give it the bottle, just show the label, and they leave the bottle in the table for a minute. Usually, we never give the bottle for the customers, only the chats. And we very apologize about that, because sometimes it's a new waitress and they don't know the rules. But I'm the manager, and most of the people here, they know all rules. They never give the bottles for the customers.
Thank you. Anything else you would like to state to the board, or shall we move to questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, once again, Andrew Santiago, security, as the inspectors, officers arrived, that they were gonna go check the licensing, that's when I know the girl had come and with the bottle and everything. I then also confronted her once it was, the officers brought it to the attention and went with the owner. I called her and I said, you should not be bringing any bottle, and she claimed what they wanted to see the bottle and so forth. But I had also confronted the waitress and told her you can never leave a bottle. And after the citation was written and so forth, I know the owner did also as well, pulled her to the side and corrected the bottle serving. And that is from my end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to questions from the board, starting with Chairman Joyce. Do you have any questions for the licensee or for the officers?
Yeah, for Sergeant Gallagher and Detective Hernandez, was this the only table that had bottle service?
Believe it was.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And for the licensee, were you working with any promoters that night?
Any promotion, come on, no, negative.
no.
There was no promoters
No.
at the location at all.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Curran, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
None from me, thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you. We apologize about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now be calling item number 8, 934 Inc., doing business as the Banshee, located at 934 Dorchester Ave in Dorchester, dated the incident November 27th, 2022. Person under 21 in possession of alcohol in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 34, who is present on behalf of the licensee.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners Saxon and Curran. Michael Brodigan on behalf of the licensee. With me today is Ray Butler, the manager of record, Aaron Callahan, the person in charge on the evening in question, as well as Ronald Hughes, member of the door staff.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, you may please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading from a report that I wrote on Sunday, November 27, 2022. Sergeant Detective Will Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD license permission and conducted a license premise inspection of the Banshee located 934 Dorchester Avenue. While inside the establishment, detectives observed 3 female patrons drinking alcoholic beverages at the bar. Detective noticed these patrons looked young and asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. 2 out of the individuals stated they were over 21 years of age and produced driver's license stating they were over 21 years of age. Detectives were able to confirm that the 2 patrons had valid driver's licenses and were of age. The 3rd patron, later identified as Soleil Green, 3/28 of 2002, initially provided detectives with her valid Mass driver's license, confirming she was under 21 years of age. Door staff stated Ms. Green had used a driver's license that stated that she was over 21 years of age. Ms. Green then produced a Mass driver's license which contained her name but displayed a date of birth as made appear as though she was over 21 years of age. Detectives used a license verification app which confirmed that the driver's license provided by Ms. Green was indeed fraudulent. The fraudulent Mass driver's license was confiscated by detectives Ms. Green will be summoned to court for person under 21 possession of alcohol, possession of fraudulent identification. Detectives brought the situation to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Aaron Callanan. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 059225 for persons under 21 years old in possession of alcohol on premise. Mr. Callanan signed and accepted the notice. Okay.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Attorney Brodigan, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, please. Just a few questions for Sergeant Hernandez, if I may. Sergeant, when you were in the establishment, all of the staff were cooperative with you?
Very.
And Sergeant, would you say that the identification that was the second form that was produced, that was the fraudulent one, you say that was a high quality ID? High quality fake ID?
Well, it was a fake ID. I wouldn't get into the quality of it. It was just a fake ID, sir.
Okay. And Ms. Green originally informed you that she produced a ID that said she was over 21, correct?
No, she gave us her ID. Ms. Green gave us an ID that said she was under 21 years of age. The door staff explained to us that she had definitely had an ID that said she was over 21 when she came in. She finally did show us, she finally did produce the ID that she came in there with, the fraudulent ID, and we confirmed that that was fraudulent, sir.
Yes, I'm sorry. So the initial one that she provided to you showed that she was under 21, and her story to you was that that's the ID that she had produced to the door staff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the door staff refuted that and was insistent in telling you that no, she in fact had presented an ID with her picture, her name, just a different date of birth, indicating that she was in fact over 21.
Yeah, yes, sir. She had produced an ID that she was over 21 years of age, and we finally did get it from her.
Great. Okay. Nothing further, Detective. Thank you, Sergeant. If I may, briefly, the Banshee is an establishment that takes a lot of pride and a lot of diligence with regards to their methods relative to inspecting people when they come into the establishment to make sure that they're over 21. This evening in question was a Sunday night. It was actually a rather slow night at the establishment. Despite that fact, they always have door staff at the door taking IDs and checking them. On this particular occasion, Ronald Hughes, who is here and will testify, took the IDs of all three of these individuals who came in together. They all produced identifications with their photos on them, indicating that their dates of birth established that they were in fact of legal age. When the police arrived at the bar, this individual in question, Miss Green, actually tried to dupe them as well. She gave them a Massachusetts driver's license, her actual driver's license, and indicated to them that in fact that's the license that she had produced to the doorman on the night in question, which in fact was wrong. And in that instance, Mr. Hughes was adamant with the police, and he informed them that she had in fact produced a fake ID. That insistence and that cooperation with the police resulted in her eventually handing over this fraudulent ID. Since this occasion, I would point out, and Raymond Butler, a manager of record, is here. He can testify as well, should the board like to hear it, relative to the procedures that have now been put in place. The establishment has gone to get a license verification scanner app that was actually suggested by the police on the night in question. So that will assist them even further to be able to identify any fraudulent types of identification. Just want to point out to the board that that in this instance, it wasn't as if a ID wasn't asked for and shown. This was just an ID, in fact, a Massachusetts ID that had been altered by Miss Green. And as I mentioned, Mr. Hughes can tell you that it was in fact a high quality ID. It's something that we feel as if we got duped on. We've taken additional steps now to even lessen the chance of that occurring in the future. Would the board like to hear from Mr. Hughes and or Mr. Callahan and Mr. Butler?
Sure, we can hear from the person that did the IDs that night.
Sure, thank you. Ron,
That would be me.
please introduce yourself to the board, please, Ron.
My name is Ronald Hughes. I'm the doorman for the Banshee.
And how long have you worked at the Banshee, Ron?
Just past a year.
Okay. And you were working on the night in question here?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And do you remember taking the ID of these three females prior to them entering the establishment?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you recall the interaction with the police after they had come in and asked about the IDs?
Yes, I do.
And were you aware that one of the individuals, Ms. Green, had indicated that she, in fact, had not provided an ID that was fraudulent?
Yes, in the beginning, she tried to say I did not ID her, which is not how we do business here. And then she produced her legitimate ID that said she was underage to the detective license.
And the ID that she had produced to you, did you think that that was did it look like an authentic identification from Massachusetts?
It looked as real as my ID does.
Okay. I have nothing further. Should the board have any questions for Mr. Hughes?
Are there other witnesses that you plan to introduce, or is that all for you?
I think that Mr. Callahan would testify very similar to Mr. Hughes. Mr. Butler can testify to what I told you about relative to the procedures that were taken subsequent to this event relative to purchasing the app. If you'd like to hear from either of those two, we'd be happy to do it.
Chairman Joyce, do you need to hear anything further, or are you?
No, I'll take Attorney Brodigan's testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the licensee or for the officers?
I don't have any. Yep.
Thank you. And Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
None from me either. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9 is being continued. It will be heard on March 7th when the manager of record and counsel are able to appear. Calling item number 10, Korean Fusion Inc., doing business as Koi, located at 16 to 18 North Street. Dated the incident January 14th, 2023. Overcrowding 139 found on mechanical count, capacity of 52 in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64 in Boards Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F, and premise conducting bottle service in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Me, my name is Joanne Dow. I'm the general manager at Koi right now.
Great. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am.
Thank you, Detective. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this afternoon?
William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you very much. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. If you could please read the police report into the record.
Good morning. I'll be reading again from a police report, which I wrote on Saturday, January 14th, 2023. Assigned Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD license premise to conduct a license premise inspection of Koi located at 16 North Street in Boston. As detectives walked up to the establishment, detectives at the front door staff how many patrons they currently had inside. The staff member stated they had a count of 105 patrons. While walking into the establishment, detectives observed patrons sitting at a table with mixers, a carafe of unknown liquids, and an ice bucket. Detectives also noticed a menu on the table for bottles of hard alcohol for sale. This menu was seized and we provided it to the licensing board. Detectives then proceeded to review the licenses and permits of the establishment. Detectives learned that the capacity of the premise is set at 52 persons inside. Detective Hernandez performed a mechanical count of the establishment and discovered that the actual number of persons located inside the premise was 139. Detectives also made note that bottle service is not a condition allowed on the establishment common victual license. Detectives informed the person in charge, Ms. Joanne Dow, that bottle service is not a condition allowed at the establishment, that the premise was extremely overcrowded. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license permission section notice 060116 for premise conducting bottle service and overcrowding. Ms. Dow signed for and accepted the notice. That's all. And there is a couple of pictures included in the packet of the actual bottle service on the table. All the other bottles they had provided in the kitchen for all the bottle service, all the buckets, all the mixers that were in the kitchen getting ready to go out. And then also pictures of the menus that were advertising the gin, scotch, whiskeys, cognac and rum, and all the prices for all the bottles. No, that is all.
Thank you very much. And we do have those pictures and they've been shared with the board. Ms. Dow, would you like to address the alleged incident?
So first and foremost, we had outsourced a security team that we have since parted ways with. There are conflicting numbers on our capacity, which we have actually acknowledged and have begun a process of rectification with. We have hired an architect who is actually on the call today as well, and we are willing to provide the new drawings and everything that will actually fix up all of our capacity and bring our standing capacity to the appropriate number. In terms of the bottle licensing situation, we acknowledge all of these citations, and we're making steps to rectify that situation as well. We have already begun flyering our butters and are in contact with our community groups to apply with the City of Boston for a legitimate bottle license for bottle service.
Thank you. Anything else you would like to testify to the board, or shall we move to questions?
Since then, we have stopped all services of any of that nature, all subsequent events. So until we rectify everything on our end to make sure that everything is of good standing.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Were you working with a promoter that night?
No, we were not.
We're not. Okay. So you said the security team you parted ways with, what do they have to do with the business decision to have bottle service that night and to be extremely over capacity?
Not in terms of the bottle service. That is something that we take responsibility for. In terms of the capacity, we were expecting at least an accurate representation of the number to be able to give to officers when they arrived.
It sounds like they did give an accurate number, but you were extremely over capacity.
They had.
Ms. Dow was at the door when we showed up, and when I asked her what her capacity was, she said she had no idea what her capacity was. So that didn't help matters when she knew that she had what her capacity was. And we've also been there before for bottle service, and we've told them specifically they were not allowed to have bottle service. We've actually spoken to them on another occasion in regards to that. So they were very well aware of that.
And I'm going to tell you right now, you can't have bottle service. So you've heard it clearly from police officers. You heard it from the chair of the board. I think you should educate yourself about what the current capacity is. We're not going to discuss future capacities until you get your paperwork in and finish the process. This isn't the first time overcrowding has come to my attention. Anecdotally, I've had people call me on the weekends to say it looks like a club outside of Coy. So I accept your apology for the bottle service, but I would like to know what you were thinking as far as conducting your business that way that night. You knew it was against the rules. You knew it was not part of your license. And why did you decide to? I mean, this is not one table. There's evidence that you had prepared yourself for, I don't know, 15, 20 tables bottle service, and you're advertising it.
Like I said, we accept the responsibility of that.
How long have you worked?
What is it? I'm sorry?
How long have you worked there?
I have been the general manager for a little over 7 months. So we are moving towards applying properly. And we're returning to restaurant services only, no event hosting and everything.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
What capacity are you operating at now?
So there are 3 conflicting numbers, but the one that we're using currently is 64.
And where are you getting that from?
So 64 is on our CV license. We have 72 that's also present on our CV license, and then another of, I believe, 52 on another license. But the 64 is consistent on multiple licenses. Place of assembly, CV license, inspection.
So your inspection certificate and your place of assembly say 64?
Yes, that's why we have hired Eric to clarify, but yes.
And your all alcohol CV license says what?
It says 64, but then also 72.
How is that stated? I'm sorry. I don't have it in front of me.
The capacity is 64, and then we have the patio, which provides 12. But there's in the description, there's also 72 seated.
Okay. And you say you have any kind of application in with us to change that capacity? You're saying you're implying?
Yes. So
is that already in with us?
So we have hired an architect. He is sending all the documentation, and I think that he has already been doing it for the past month. So we're stretching. We can email all the documentation over to everyone.
Okay. Where Detective Hernandez, where are we getting 52 from? Because we have it on the previous violation from 2018 that it was 52 as well.
Sergeant Gallagher, would you like to?
Yeah, it's I'm gonna say 3 out of the 4 licenses, it's that lower number. In that 64 that she's referring to, that's including the patio, which is 12, I believe. So the inside capacity is not 64, but a majority of the licenses have that lower capacity limit set.
For inside, just for inside.
Inside, correct.
Yeah.
That 64 is inside and outside.
They had 139.
Yeah.
Inside.
Okay.
They were triple. Yeah.
So we're talking about 50, like, so it's 50, you're gonna get written up for anything over 52 inside. Do you understand that?
Yes, but
Not 64, not 64 inside.
our licenses, we can email everything over. Our licenses says, like, even on our entertainment license, it says 64 inside.
Yeah, this is an entertainment. I don't know what's going on with that, but
Our CV also says the same. So we were
the
willing
64 inside.
Yes, so we were willing to send everything over.
I have the license actually in front of it. I can send that to the board afterwards. The CV license does say 64. The place of assembly also says 64 and clarifies that that's 52 inside, 12 outside.
Okay, so I'll look at it, but what I'm hearing is 52 inside. 52 plus 12 equals 64. So it's 50. It sounds like it's 52 inside to me. Just giving you my perspective here right now, but I'll look at the documents.
Okay. I mean, our COI does say 64. So I believe that's just the number that we were going off of. But we will email everything over, including all the documentation from our architect as well.
But that would be more in reference to an application to change your capacity.
Yes.
So that's separate. That really isn't relevant to this violation right now. That's for the future.
Understood.
Thank you.
Your capacity on the night of the incident was over 64, correct, on the inside?
Yes.
Nothing further from me.
Any further questions from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you. Those are all of the matters before the board today. That will adjourn today's hearing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.